Hello and welcome to this 5 minutes revision video on superpower relations in the Cold War. Our focus is going to be on the INF Treaty, which is covered in key topic 3 of the specification. In terms of the key facts and features that you need to know for this particular topic, the key players involved are Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan, who were the Soviet and US presidents respectively. In terms of the key causes, you've got the USA developing the Strategic Defense Initiative, otherwise known as Star Wars, in 1983. Although this didn't become fully operational, the Soviets were completely aware of the plans for this particular development, and they were quite afraid of the capabilities that it had. There were therefore a series of summits in the mid-1980s, one in Geneva, where both sides wanted to discuss peace, and Gorbachev wanted Reagan to drop the SDI program. And then the Reykjavik summit in 1986, which is where Reagan wanted to get rid of all ballistic missiles. So the treaty itself, the features of the treaty, is that there was an agreement to the elimination of all nuclear weapons with a range between 500 and 5,500 kilometers. The stockpiles of nuclear weapons were to be reduced, and the key play here is that Gorbachev knew he didn't have the money or defensive reason to disagree anymore. So therefore, he desperately wanted an agreement in order for the Star Wars program to no longer happen, and so therefore he did agree to the reduction in nuclear weapons. So in terms of where this comes up in the exam, if it comes up as a consequences question, then the two consequences are, well, one of the consequences is that it leads to the reduction of stockpiles of nuclear weapons on both sides. And this was the first agreement in the Cold War that led to a significant reduction in ballistic missiles. So the key fact here is 2,700 missiles were dismantled between both sides. The Soviets did more than the US, but the sum total is 2,700. The second consequence is that it was followed by further agreements that built to the end of the Cold War, which included START 1, which led to further reductions in weapons of mass destruction. So in terms of the narrative account question, the potential question that could come up is write a narrative account analysing the key events in the years 1985 to 1991. So with regards to event A, you can talk about the Geneva and Reykjavik summits that were discussed on the second slide. And then event B would be the INF Treaty itself. So you can talk about some of the features of the INF Treaty with regards to reducing stockpiles. And then event C is that it leads to the end of the Cold War. So it leads to a reduction in tensions. It leads to the collapse of the the Soviet Union, and therefore it leads to tensions between the two sides absolutely dissipating. In terms of its importance, so one of the questions could be explain the importance of the INF Treaty for relations between the two superpowers. So the key element here is that it reduces tensions between them and improves relations. And the reasons behind that is that it leads to a reduction in nuclear weapons. So again, you'd have to expand on that to say how many it reduces. To talk about the range, so we're talking about intermediate range ballistic missiles that were being dismantled here. You could say that it is important, it reduces tensions because it leads to further talks on further reductions. So you can talk about the START 1 negotiations, and you can also talk about the idea of what the public opinion was of Gorbachev during his time, in that he was seen as a pop star in the West and led to the idea of Gorby mania. He was essentially the first Russian leader that was viewed in this way, purely because people are starting to see the Soviet Union not be the enemy, and Gorbachev trying to work with the West rather than what the other leaders used to do beforehand. The second type of question that could come up is to do with the idea of the development of the Cold War. So the two aspects of knowledge that you need to talk about is that you can say that it led to the Cold War ending as tensions began to decrease. You can link in with the idea of further talks on further reductions. You can talk about the reduction in nuclear weapons. It's just the content is very similar. It's just the idea that the point has to differ. And then you can say it led to the end of the arms race as weapons were being reduced for the first time in the Cold War. That's the end of this 5-minute history video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to look at all the other 5-minute videos.